Bookstackers, I'm Paige.
I'm Elise.
And today we are doing our in-depth discussion of The Vampire Academy first book.
I think I got into it decently quickly because I was interested in what was going to happen because it kind of like jumps right in.
I think it's just because the main character is so sassy and funny, and so it's super easy to read her thoughts because the writing is so simple. It's just easy to keep going and going, and then you're up all night.
It's 300 and something pages, and it's decently big writing on the thing, so it's pretty simple to get through. Like, if I had had time, I would have been able to finish it in one night.
I loved that Rose was so comfortable with her sexuality and her looks. I think that often in a lot of the YA books that I read, the main character is like, I wasn't pretty enough. She was like, nah, bitch, I looked sick in this dress.
I was like, the
so good. I was hot. The bits that made me uncomfortable were mainly where she was kind of like slut shaming. So whether that was other students or whether it was what she would call the blood whores, the damphirs that like let people bleed. That I found quite hypocritical because I'm like, but...
Yeah, the way she portrayed the teenage, like, hypocrisy, though, was really good, like, and straightforward. Because it's so easy when you're that age to just be like, oh, this is the wrong thing, but when I do it, it's okay. I'm not one of those people, so it's...
I really enjoyed, though, that Rose kind of was confronted by that. So when Dimitri was like, well, actually, my mum is what you call a blood whore, and she lives in a commune, and it was actually great, and I've been brought very nicely. And Rose kind of took a step back and was like, oh, I didn't realise. And I liked that. I liked that it was the adult, the older person telling her, being like, it's not what you think. You've got all these prejudices here. And I found that really interesting as well. And also the way that they dealt with, like, Lissa's self-harm.
Yeah.
It wasn't, like, the main character dealing with it, but, you know, she could feel the feelings, but also she still couldn't understand. And I liked that because I don't think there's enough about friends who deal with someone who has a mental illness and have to kind of, you know, deal with their own emotions while trying to understand their friend who they have never experienced something like that for. And how Rose at the time was like, oh, well, like, she wants me to keep it a secret, so I'll do that because she's my friend. And then when it got to a point that Rose was like, I can't handle this, went and got someone, and, you know, Lissa got put on pills, and I was like, yes, help the child.
The betrayal with Lissa taking the antidepressants as well, where Rose was like, I've never been really pro pills, but if they're helping her, then go for it.
Yeah.
Like, the feeling of, because a lot of people are antidepressants for whatever reason, because some people they haven't worked for, so they just don't trust them. Some people don't trust medication in general. So it was interesting to have somebody who was like, not like super cool with people taking pills, but like if they were going to help her best friend, she was like, yes.
There was a line where Rose was like, the pills didn't necessarily make her happier, they just cleared her head and made her more stable. And I was like, yes, they don't fix you. They just help you clear your mind.
The portrayals she did of all the different things were really good.
They were very age appropriate as well.
Yeah, that's, I think, part of why I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So the themes that I picked out, which are like the obvious ones, was definitely like social hierarchy and classes. So within the school alone, there was like the Moroi vampires that weren't royal and they were kind of a bit lower class, and if their parents were like working for other Morois, then it was like a big ooh sort of thing.
Yeah, like with Mia, how she wanted so badly to be in with the royals because that was such an important part of their society. To be popular, you had to be royal. Or you had to be friends with the royals. But her parents were custodians, I think. Like, they cleaned up and they did like janitorial work. She was like so ashamed of that because it meant that she couldn't really get into the circle if they knew that.
Yeah. And it was also interesting seeing Lissa sacrifice herself, like knowing that if she wanted to make Rose's life easier, she had to basically step up and be the Dragmere princess. And had to go with all the royals. And it was interesting because they talk about like all the games that people would play with each other and how it was all fake friendships just to get in good. And I just found that really interesting because they're at such a young age, but that's still playing out on this microscopic level. And it was so interesting that there were ramifications for what they would do at 17 that kind of carry on. And I think it was good that they showed the stresses of that and the effects that had on Lissa as someone who had this mental illness. It was like, yeah, that has an effect. That makes it worse. In a lot of schools, you've got the cliques. So in those cliques, often there's hierarchies there and there's all this gossip and there's bullying and all that sort of stuff. And so I think it was really nice having that parallel, obviously a bit bigger, but yeah, I liked that. How great was Mason?
Mason as the best friend love him. I felt really bad that he liked Rose and she didn't like him back, but for everything he was willing to do, just even though it was only friendship, though she did flirt back and I felt bad for him and I was like, Rose, don't do that, that's mean. But like when he was just helping her because he really liked her and he wanted to help her and they were friends and it was adorable and I loved it.
Yes. And I also like that none of the characters did stuff that seemed out of character. Like when Rose would do shitty things, it was still in character, not just to drive the plot forward. Every character would kind of do something and you'd be like, I don't agree with your choice, but I see that you would have made that choice.
Yeah.
Like that makes sense for you. So a lot of Rose's decisions, while very questionable, I was like, I like your character would totally do this. I can see your thought process.
Like a lot of the stuff that Rose did, I didn't agree with. I was like, okay, stop. Like when she told Christian to stay away from Lissa, I'm like, stay the fuck out of that.
Yeah, like
also,
leave that alone.
Right, she was calling out the royal people for being really shallow and everything, but she was judging Christian just as harshly.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, he's all like weird and his parents are strigoi. And even though he obviously wasn't strigoi, she was like, oh, yeah, but So she was doing the same thing that everybody else was.
I did enjoy that, like, while she was very hypocritical, she would often like realize herself that she was hypocritical.
Once she had the realizations, I was like, thank you, you're growing as a person. Still don't agree with your choices, but like, thank you, you know?
Thank you for growing. There's a lot of growth that happens as well for Rose's character later on in the series, which we will read again, and she's going to read for the first time, and I'm very excited to see her reactions. I think it's good that Richelle Mead isn't afraid to like confront her characters and be like, but actually, is that correct?
So for symbols, pretty much the whole society is a symbol because it's like a reflection of human society, and the way she had like the class separations and also the feeders used as like a representation of drug addicts, the blood whores as prostitutes and everything. She really goes through like a lot. The way the effect of Lissa using her spirit power to help other people was draining her. That
oh my God, I was like, that's freaking like...
Right, the way she made that connect to her depression and how it wasn't helping that, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I thought that was really cool.
And I loved the lines as well where Rose was like, you can't help anyone else if you're not helping yourself first. Like, you need to put yourself first.
Yeah.
And how Liz was even saying, like, even though she'd stopped using her spirit powers and draining herself that way, she still wanted to. Yeah. And I think that's a very common thing that happens for people. A lot of people that have depression are like, oh, but I just want to help other people and I don't want to inconvenience other people. I just want them to be happy rather than focusing on themselves. So I like that. And I also like things that it sort of said about society with the Dampiers, like how there was more males than females in it. And
because they're generally a warrior sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and how often the females would go along the blood whore path just because like Moreau would take advantage of them because they were in a position of power. And also the fact that Dampiers can't actually have kids with their own race. You can only have a baby with someone who is Moroi. And so there's this extra pressure of like, do I want to have sex with a Moroi that's probably going to use me and leave me, but have a kid so I can continue on my race? Or do I, just give up my life and basically am only protecting this Moroi? And so it's not a great position to be in, really.
No, they're pretty stuck.
But I like that this series kind of sets off that whole idea of the upper class should be helping themselves as well. So like with Christian, he's like, I think we should be using our powers that we have to fight alongside.
Instead of just hiding. Because they used to use them to fight and then they were like, So.
Yeah, so I like that Christian is kind of like the seed of like, let's do that.
I'm just going to talk about the villain real quick because I enjoyed the villain. Because his actions were very understandable and you can agree with his motivations, but the way he went through it, he was just like too, what's the word? Like how in Black Panther, right? Killmonger had his ideals, but he went too far with them.
Yeah.
You know? Because like
too passionate.
Yeah, like he just went too far, and like you understand his motivations and everything, and you're like, maybe not that far, you know?
Yeah.
You know how he was like a really likable villain.
Yeah, it's that sort of thing where it's like, I get where you're coming from, and you make some good points.
Yeah.
But you're going about it all wrong. Like, yes, it's scary to die, and you could totally tell that he didn't want to, but if he'd gone about it and been like, I'm going to pass this on to my daughter, Natalie, or I'm going to pass this on to Lissa, who will probably actually take this. Like, I will teach her instead.
Also asking, yeah.
I think because he'd had that obsession for so long, he, like, couldn't break out of that.
Yeah.
So it was both like sad, but also like, dude, like, calm down.
And also Natalie felt so bad for her.
Yeah, she was super manipulated.
Yeah, she just wanted the attention from her dad, and she was like, if this is what I have to do to get the attention, then that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
And it was really upsetting.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for her as a character. She was like put down like the whole way through, even by people who she thought were her friends. Like Lissa and Rose weren't very nice to her either.
Yeah, behind their back, they were like, she's boring, but I guess we'll hang out with her because she's like easiest.
They were like, we'll just coast through the middle and we'll use her to do that. And I was like, that's not really cool, but...
There's also the bit where they go on that shopping trip and the whole time all that Victor is doing is talking to Lissa and Natalie is said to be being like trying to get the attention and being like please share attention, please share attention.
Yeah.
And when she does get that attention, she's so happy. Like she makes a point of making it so happy. And it's like, you know, how much has that father not been giving her the attention that she really needs it that much? And the fact that at the end when she turns Strigoi for her dad,
even though she was like, if I end up wanting his blood, then he'll just have to kill me. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, she was willing to sacrifice herself. She was like that into the cause. But I think when you've got a father who is so obsessed with this thing and who has been sick and who is your whole world, she would have been fed those things her whole life. Basically, she was prepped and primed for that.
And she was like, this is what he's giving his attention to. So I'll be part of that and then he'll have to pay attention to me.
And Mrs. Carp, or Miss Carp.
Miss Carp.
Yeah. That was sad. Especially when you find out that, like, her guardian went after her. You're like, oh.
Oh, yeah. When he said they were lovers, I was like, oh, sweetie. That's really sad.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
And the reasoning behind why she turned as well was, like, so that she could get cut off from all the insanity. And it was interesting because, like, becoming Strigoi is basically metaphor for, like, killing yourself, essentially. Like, you go over to the dark side, you die. And it's like the worst way to go. And so it was really interesting that she was like, to get rid of the pain, I will do this. And
because she didn't want to have the connection to the spirit magic anymore. She was like, I can't deal with it. Because she didn't have somebody who was shadow kissed like Lissa has with Rose.
Yeah.
And how St. Vladimir had Anna. I appreciate that it brought that out. Like, having somebody help you through it is what is like so important.
So as someone who has read the series... I would like to know, what are your predictions for the future? Where do you think this is going to go?
Predictions?
Yeah, what do you think is going to happen? Just or even just in the next book, like where do you think it's going to
go? Victor died, didn't he? So he's not going to come back. I'm pretty sure he died.
No, he got captured.
He was captured, he didn't die, and he seemed really confident about that. So he's going to come back as a villain later on. Miss Carp is going to come back. I don't know.
That was a spoiler in the film. Moving on.
Yeah, Miss Carp's going to come back, assumedly because of the film in a bad way. She's going to be evil or something. I think it's going to have something to do with, there's going to be like a class war or something, and the Moroi and the Strigoi, the Moroi are like going to have to like figure out how they're going to fight, and then they're going to have to rely on the Danfer even more to train them how to fight, and I think that's going to be cool. But I don't know if that's going to happen. I think it'd be cool if it did. I don't know. There's going to be like
the series, you know.
I feel like there's going to be this big thing between the Moroi and the Strigoi. And it's gonna have something to do with that. And then there's gonna be things with Rose and Dimitri and Christian and Lissa, which was adorable, by the way.
They're so adorable. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this in-depth discussion of Vampire Academy. So the next book that we're doing is called This Is Gonna Hurt, so we chose that in our spoiler-free review. So yeah, we've done that. What else are we doing?
I don't know.
Leave a comment down below of any thoughts you have, any responses, any characters you did or didn't like. Tell us basically what you thought. We'd love to continue the discussion down below. And yeah, that's all. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Cheers.